Welcome to a special edition of Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Tonight, an hour-long investigation into the dangers facing the U.S. power grid. What would it take to bring it down? And if our system did break down, how would you survive? And what would it be like in the dark? I'm in Lower Manhattan right now, standing in front of a power station, a typical power station. But last month I went to a meeting just a few blocks from here in the freezing cold. But when I came out of that meeting, I was frozen. Not from bitter temperatures, but from fear. I learned things that no one is talking about. Things that can change my life, your life, and the lives of everyone you know forever. I started thinking about how fragile life is and how ill-prepared we are for this. Tonight, in an exclusive justice investigation, the vulnerability of America's power system, the United States electric grid. Are we ready for a terror attack? And what would we do if the lights went out? Now, tonight is about a series of forces and individuals who, instead of doing the right thing for you and me, are playing politics and gambling with your safety and our way of life. Now, who of us could ever envision 9/11 happening? But the difference between 9/11 and what I'm about to tell you is that we know that this can happen. The question is not, will it happen, but when will it happen? And the consequences would be 1,000,000 times worse than 9/11. One day, you're enjoying the comforts of life. The next, everything is different. Civilization as you know it would be gone. An electromagnetic pulse would destroy all electronics and the transformers that power everything, anything, with an on-off switch. Your hot water heater, your refrigerator, your dialysis machine. Hospitals are closed. Grocery shelves are empty. Most of the food you have at home is spoiled. And forget about your bank accounts. It doesn't matter. What you have in your pocket is all you can access. I imagine myself waking up to total darkness, nothing in my home working, food spoiled, water not running. I rummage through whatever last cans of food I can find. I'm alone because my kids and loved ones have no way to get to me. And I'm afraid to leave because it's too dangerous. People are desperate. They're hungry. Our civilization thrown back to the Dark Ages. I'm scared and helpless, and I don't know how I can survive. If there were to be such a catastrophic failure, our death toll would be staggering. A blue ribbon commission predicting mass fatalities, horrific loss of life, some even saying 9 out of 10 Americans would die. This is not science fiction. It's real. And tonight we'll tell you about the ways that it could happen. A solar flare, an electromagnetic pulse, a nuclear device, a cyber attack, or a simple physical assault, all of which would break down our society as we know it. You know, in this complicated world that we live in, many wish us destruction. But it is he who has the capacity, ability, and inclination to act on that ill will against America. It is he against whom we must be ever vigilant. Now, scientists tell us that an EMP created by a nuclear weapon at high altitude is the most efficient way to take out America's electric grid, telecommunication networks, and all critical infrastructures. As I stand here now, North Korea has a satellite the size and weight of a small nuclear weapon, orbiting at an altitude conducive to an EMP attack, and it approaches our country from the south, a direction which lacks early warning or missile defenses. The threat could also be from the sea. Fact, 6 months ago, 2 full-up nuclear-capable missiles on their launchers were discovered in Panama on a North Korean flagged vessel hidden under sugar bags. Reports are that our grid has already been penetrated by our enemies, leaving behind software programs that can compromise it. Now, there are other ways to take down our grid. A simple, direct, physical attack, like an assault on a local substation. Fact, 10 months ago, unknown attackers attempted to blow up a San Jose transformer substation in a military-style raid. No one has been apprehended. The FBI and local police call it vandalism, as if Billy Bob and Bubba, after a few beers and a night out, get their hands on AK-47s and surgically knock out 17 transformers, 16 circuit breakers, after cutting underground fiber optic cables and outsmarting security cameras and motion sensors. These terrorists are still out there. And less than a week later, in a shockingly similar attack in Tennessee, a suspect on a boat fired shots at a nuclear power plant and then engaged with police. A trespasser, you might say? Someone armed from the water willing to engage in a shootout with law enforcement is certainly not Bubba with a few beers in him. And even if no one attacks our grid, the sun will. The Earth is exposed to intense solar flaring roughly every 150 years. The last time it occurred was 1859. Do the math. We're due. Now, I'm not saying this to panic anyone, but everyone, including our enemies, know that an artificially created electromagnetic pulse will shut down all power, which risks our complete survival. Now, the United States possesses the world's largest power distribution system. What is our government doing to make sure that our grid, likened by some to that of a third world country grid, is really protected? Are we ready for an attack on our grid and the catastrophic failure that would result? And that's my open. And joining me now is former Navy SEAL Christopher Mark-Eben. Chris, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Judge.
You were a Navy SEAL for more than a decade.
That's correct.
You have experience with the grid. What can you tell us about it?
Well, the power grid is amazingly easy to dismantle. As an unconventional warfare specialist, I was trained to dismantle and take down power grids in other countries. Believe me, it doesn't take a doctorate from MIT to figure out how to make an EMP device that will take down not only a substation, which this is right here, but the transmission stations and the distribution stations. With several EMPs placed properly in the right locations, utilizing a cell phone device with an RFD technology, which is remote firing device technology, could bring down 15 transmission stations at one time.
With a cell phone?
With a cell phone, absolutely.
So you don't have to be that smart, that sophisticated, or anything to take down power systems?
Technically, no.
All right. And so what do you do to prevent that kind of thing from happening?
Well, we utilize what's called red cell tactics, techniques, and procedures, where we go into installations and do what's called a threat and vulnerability assessment after we've attacked the installation and show them where their weaknesses are. I've done that as a SEAL. I've done that as a civilian with my own business. Now, what oftentimes happens, unfortunately, is the powers that be don't take the recommendations that you give them seriously for whatever reason. And what we're seeing now is, we have what's called the Federal Energy, the FERC. It's a regulatory commission for energy, and it's made up of guys who are desk jockeys, former FBI agents that have never been downrange. They're not trained in unconventional warfare. They took a class for 2 days or 3 days, and now they're putting them in charge of this energy commission. That's ridiculous.
Well, you say when you do a report assessing the vulnerabilities of these particular substations or transmission centers, I mean, what happens to those reports?
They sit on a desk, they get looked at, they get tossed around, they say, wow, these recommendations are too costly, or we're just point out we're not going to do them because they're going to affect our bottom line. And that's usually what happens. There's cameras. If you look at this building, there's cameras everywhere. But a camera without a person behind it is a dead camera. And you can't take someone who worked at Walmart yesterday and looked at a camera and then put them on a commission and say now they're a security expert. That's just basically what we're seeing when they put an FBI non-field agent in charge of these programs. This operation that took place in San Jose was one or two guys probably did it.
Right, right. And of course, that's the one with the AK-47s, and they shot for 20 minutes. They took out the whole substation almost.
As a SEAL, those were some techniques that I would have utilized in order to make that happen. And what no one's talking about is this affected Silicon Valley directly. And what's in Silicon Valley? Yahoo, Google, Facebook, PayPal, things that every American uses on a daily basis.
All right. And so what do you think their goal was?
I'm thinking, two things. Everyone says this was a test. It could have been a test, but I'm also thinking maybe there's some things that they've already instituted or implemented as a result of that attack.
You've been a Navy SEAL. I mean, you've been in harm's way. You know the dangers to us and to Americans. What do you think it's going to take to get people to focus on this?
Judge, that's a very good question. As Americans, we've traditionally had knee-jerk reactions to everything. I mean, 9/11, we were proactive for a little bit, but now we're taking, we're not taking any proactive approaches. As Americans, we're in trouble right now. I think there's things that are in play right now in our country that we're not aware of. If our power grids go down, I suggest, everyone stock up on batteries, baby wipes, and biscuits, because it's going to be a series of very long nights and months.
Right now, we know that there are surface-to-air missiles that were identified in Panama with a North Korean flag on the vessel. They were hidden under sugar bags. I mean, what does that trigger in your mind?
Well, that just tells me that there are many forces that are complicit with attacks on the U.S. from the inside out. I mean, Pakistan has an atomic bomb. China doesn't like it very much, either does North Korea. It's not hard to fathom that these countries are getting together and plotting and planning, the destruction of our country from within. Our borders are very porous right now. That's another point of contention. We've got problems, Judge. We really do.
All right. Christopher Markeben, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Judge.
All right. My pleasure. And coming up is former CIA Director James Woolsey, as well as the former Secretary of Energy. Stay with us.